video, let's look where we can find the natural harmonics on the violin. So these are the basic ones that we can play around with as beginners, and playing harmonics also helps you to really keep the shape of your hand, to be relaxed. So let's start with the first harmonic. That's the easiest one. Now what happens in a harmonic is you've got your string, and where you divide it in half, if you lightly touch on that spot, it will ring on both sides. So we don't press down, because the moment you press down, only this part that is left after you've stopped the string, that part vibrates. When you play a harmonic, your finger lightly touches on the exact spot, and then both sides of the string will vibrate. So the easiest one, that is the brightest and that is easiest to find, is on the, if you have your open string. So let's play our open E string. Now when I move my hand from first position to third position, slightly past it, just as my hand touches the shoulder of the violin, so I'm here, I move up, there it stops. If I put out my pinky lightly, that little dot that I've got there, that's the harmonic dot, will be approximately where it will sound. So you have to play around, each one is slightly different. And so let's see if I play my open E. Now I move my hand up. See, now I'm going to stop on that dot, and that lightly touching it. So they've got E, lightly touching it. So if I go back, if I move up, just stopping there, my whole hand stays the same. Now the same will be on the A string. If I move up, here it sounds like a little flute, very lightly. So if you look closely there, my finger is barely touching the string, so it can vibrate freely under my finger. Same thing on the D string, on the G string. Now when we have the harmonic there, it's the one that can vibrate freely on both sides equally, because you've got quite a bit of string left here, and you've got a bit of string on this side of the harmonic that can vibrate. Now there are also other parts. Now the same note, so let's look at the music notes on the score. So you've got your E, and then that's the harmonic that sounds. Now that same harmonic, if I don't want to move into the position, and sometimes that happens because you're busy in a certain piece, and the other notes, and especially if it's fast, might be in first position, so you don't want to jump up every time to go and grab that note, because when your next note might be a pressed note that's in first position. So that same note, listen to this one, if I use the spot where my pinky usually is on the A string, so here's the harmonic. Now I'm going on to the pinky dot, placing my second finger there. Okay, here's exactly the same. Now if I move back into first position, I can use my pinky there. So I don't put him down. If I put him down, it's this E. If I pick him up slightly, hover over there, it's the same as this one. Now these harmonics, when you have the one on this spot moving back into the first position, you can also use them when you really want to fine tune your violin, to make sure that, because sometimes you play, you tune, and then to test them you can go this way. So this one is slightly sharp. Now they're in tune. But of course we don't only use them to tune, but it's a good little tool to use if you want to double check. And you see sometimes, especially the bigger instruments like cellos, they would double test with a little harmonic just to make sure with the thicker strings, with the frequencies, if they are in tune. So they use the harmonics to tune with it, because then you've got the higher frequency and it you can hear that clearer than the lower frequencies. Now good, so now we've discovered that this one, it's 1 octave above your E. So here's your E, 1 octave higher. So on the staff it will look like this. Now if you want to go even an octave higher, there's also a harmonic there. Now, of course, as a beginner, you're not going to have the technique to move right up to go and get that one. So if you need that sound, that high sound in a harmonic, then you can also find it in first position on the E string, but on the place where your third finger usually is. So, and if you just lift it as a harmonic, lift the finger that is just on top of the string. Can you hear there? That one is of course much clearer, but this one is also, so you don't have to. So if I want to play all 3 my harmonics in first position, here is my E string. I can play the next octave up with my pinky on the A string, and 1 octave up with back to the E string, but on the third finger. So you see it. So you don't need to change the position. Of course, if you have a passage right up here and you need a harmonic, there is your harmonic very easily. If you need to be there, or if you're high up and you need a harmonic there, then you're not going to jump back, of course, then you use it. So you can use your harmonics depending on where you are in the piece and where you need it. So as we saw, it's on the E string, so the same will be on the A string. So the same on the D string. Now the G string, we unfortunately don't have another string to go to. For that one you would need to have to go up octave, but then you can play in. Once you've done that, you can use your first finger for the higher octave, or you can come back depending on the piece you're playing. I often also give my beginner students some in-between songs where we work with easy first position finger placement, but then for certain notes going up into the harmonics, because that helps you as a beginner not to really pinch a lot with your thumb, that you have that ease of movement. So if you move from first position, so and then see. So there are little songs that I use, that we can use, and then you move back again, so that you can get quickly to your first position and then go and grab your harmonic. And of course you can grab there, but depends on the purpose of what you want to use the harmonic for, the exercise. So for beginners, that's actually quite good to practice your harmonics. Listen to the clarity of sound, you have your bow control, and you keep the shape, you loosen up, so your whole left hand posture will improve, because you have to keep the posture, move the whole hand, soft relaxed thumb, and later when you get to the point where you actually have to do positions changes, when you start moving into higher positions, your hand is already relaxed. Later when you start vibrato, your hand is relaxed. So all of this, the harmonics, even if you don't have it in songs now, play around with them and see if you can make your own exercises. You see, so these are the main ones. So we have now our fourth finger and our third finger, and on the same string you can also test it. You can have your second finger in the high 2 position, A, B, C sharp. Now lift the finger slightly. That is 2 octaves higher than the C sharp. So it's still a C sharp. It's about here. So but it's a harmonic. Some violins might be difficult. This one, my violin, sometimes it doesn't do it very clearly. It just touches on the third finger harmonic, so it's sometimes quite confusing. But if you have that, then you practice it on your violin and on that string, and on the D string, F sharp, lighten the finger. Oh, you know what? Harmonics often indicate to you whether your string needs to be changed, because it sounds fine. But if you listen to my harmonic, that's my F sharp. Now this F sharp, if I harmonic it, should be 2 octaves higher. But it's too low. My ear tells me it's far too flat. I can't change the harmonic, because if I move my finger, it's slightly too flat. So that also is quite a good indication that your strings might need changing, that they've worn, you know, the tension, everything is not balanced, because a very well balanced string will have clearer harmonics. So anybody who wants to ask the question, do I need to change my strings? When do I need to change my strings? Do these tests. So a good test would be your E to this E. So that one seems fine. Slightly low, but I heard on this one, it's to my ear quite flat. So depending on the level that you're playing, if you start really having trouble playing in tune, it might be that your string, on that string, that it needs to be changed. So not all your strings need to be changed at the same time. So if you want to test like this, that's also a good way of testing. So I hope this was useful, so that you can see from the second finger, the sharp, the high 2, the low 2 doesn't work, the high 2, then the 3 and the pinky. In first position, all 3 of these can play a harmonic. So you just need to know, what is the sound do you want? How much higher? Is it 2 octaves or 1 octave that you need? So, and as you can see from the examples that I put on the score, many of the very high sounding ones can actually be played in the first position as well. I hope this is useful, and start playing around. You know, listen to your violin, hear how clear your harmonics are. You know, if you just, and you can have a very steady bow. So start on this one first. So if you move it back on the harmonic, so very soft, nothing. Oh, there's one. And if you take your third finger, you see, so if you move, if you use your pinky, then your hand gets cramped here. So I put my third finger here on the pinky dot. So now while I bow, I move back. You see, so those are the natural harmonics that you can get. You can go higher. So you can go there. You see, so play around, see when do you find a harmonic. So if you've already started moving in positions, see, remember when you go up, really you need to come around, get it very lightly, then slightly start, so your whole hand has to be very lightly, move it back, see when does it suddenly lighten up. So it will be lots of dull, oh, sort of terrible noise, okay, and then suddenly it lightens up, and then goes again, and then suddenly it lights up, and those are your harmonics. So play around and discover your own violin and its sound. Some violins, the sound is much better for harmonics, and depending on your strings, better quality strings will have much brighter harmonics. And the small violins for the kids, some of them really difficult to get the harmonics in the first position, it just doesn't want to sound. But full-size violins should have be able to produce all these harmonics that we looked at today. Good. I hope that was useful to you.